It's Adam from Loose Pixel, and welcome back. Now, in my last video, I shared a very personal story about some of the challenges I faced in school. But today, I'd like to flip the page and share with you some stories from my past, but also some stories from my present. And the stories from my past are stories of teachers who I love, and teachers who have had a very lasting impact on me in more ways than I realized until much later on in my life, until today, to be quite honest. So I want to take you through a little trip through my past, and then I want to talk about some current day art teachers that I feel really pull me through the darkness sometimes when I feel a little bit lost. Artists that I really depend on. But I'm going to keep this video short, and I'm not going to mention everybody in one video because from what I've learned from recording this multiple times, the video gets excessively long. So I want to make sure that every person that I mention today gets their just attention, and I don't want to overdo it. So let's start with the past, and I want to start with my old elementary school English teacher, Miss Wise. And yes, that's her real name, Miss Wise. She had a unique ability to teach, but she also did something that I realize now is of crucial importance, especially when it comes to good teachers. She didn't just recite information. She wasn't just spewing out facts and stuff like that. She always had a way of presenting information that made it fascinating. She always wowed you with the information. Somebody I would compare her to nowadays would be Neil deGrasse Tyson. And there's a very good reason why I'm completely addicted to Neil deGrasse Tyson's videos, his Star Talk. I'm a big fan of those videos. And I remember her, for instance, some of the things she taught were, for instance, that Skittles were made with carnauba wax. And she said, "Do you know what carnauba wax is, boys and girls?" And we said, "No." She said, "Floor polish." And we went, "What?" And that was her way of saying, "Don't put that crap in your mouth." And it worked, because I don't eat crap like that. And another thing she taught, which was a piece of information, a little fact that I used to show off at parties far longer than I probably should have, because I probably still use this word just to make people think I'm smart. It was the longest word in the English language, which might very well still be the longest English word the longest word in the English language. I'll have to look that up. And I remembered it, and I reused it time and time again, and I've even taught my kids this word. But it wasn't until about 15-20 years later, when I was walking through my old neighborhood and I passed by my old school, that I decided on a whim to just walk in and check it out. I hadn't seen it in decades. And let me tell you, if you ever get a chance to revisit a childhood place, a place that had a lot of memories for you, do it. Because one of the things you realize is that your memories are frozen in time. That you remember things as they were, not as they are. And when I walked back in through those doors, I realized how miniature everything was compared to my memory. Large walls, normal-sized desks, huge doorways, wide corridors had now been reduced to desks that were knee-height, walls that I could almost touch with both hands at the same time, door frames that were now normal to me. And I walked through the hallways, passed by my old gym. I looked inside to see if my old gym teacher, Mr. Dalton, was there. Nope, he wasn't there. It's a new teacher. 20 years had passed after all, so be it. And then I walked up to the second floor, glancing in all of the different doorways, and didn't recognize any of the teachers. But it wasn't until I was halfway down the second floor that I heard the voice I was hoping I would hear, Miss Wise. I recognized it immediately. And I walked up to the door and discreetly poked my head in. And all these little kids were looking at me like, "Is that a teacher? Is that our new principal?" Because I guess 23 to an 8-year-old is old. And I peeked my head in, and I swear to you, Miss Wise, whose desk was in exactly the same place as it was before, glances up at me only momentarily, with a very casual look on her face, and says, "Just 1 second, Adam. I'll be right with you." And I went, "Oh, okay." And I ducked out of the classroom and waited for her next to one of the lockers. And then I laughed, and I went, "Wait a minute. How the hell did she do that? I haven't seen her in 20 years. How the hell did she remember me?" But she did. And she reacted to me like I was one of her kids that had just walked in the door 5 minutes before. Literally. And she came out a couple of minutes later and she says, "How are you?" much shorter than I remembered her, because she was about a foot taller in my memories. Now she was about a foot and a half shorter than me, because I was a full-grown adult at this point. And I said, how the hell did you remember me? She goes, of course I remember you. You're Adam. And I said, fair enough. And she goes, would you like to meet the kids? And I said, sure. And she walked me and she said, this is one of my old students. Last time I saw him, he was as big as you. And they went, wow, look at you. He's so old now. I said, yes, I'm very old. And she said, and I said, well, listen, I don't want to take too much of your time. I just wanted to let you know what a wonderful teacher you were. And I'm happy, I'm very honored to be able to tell you that in front of all of your students. And she says, well, thank you. That's very kind. And I said, I also wanted to show something off to you. I said, I wanted to let you know that I still remember the longest word in the English language. And she said, oh, do you? She said, would you like to teach it to the class? And I said, I would love to. It would be my honor. So he said, would you like to know the longest word in the English language? And they said, okay. Very unimpressed by my presentation, obviously. I didn't have her experience. And she said, and I said, it's, okay. It's pneumo ultramicroscopic silicovolcanoconiosis. And they went, whoa. And I said, yeah. Miss Wise taught me that 20 years ago, and I still remember. That's how good a teacher she is. And she says, that's very good, Adam. And I half expected her at that point to say, okay, you can have a seat. And I would have sat down in one of the tiny chairs and my knees would go in my ears type of idea. And I probably would have done it too. She had that kind of authority. But I thanked her and I left with a big smile on my face, but also with a realization. You can think that the system, schools with the hundreds and thousands of students and teachers that walk in and out of these systems all the time, that you might be forgettable. But to a good teacher, to a teacher and a person of quality like Miss Wise, you aren't. You are precious and you matter. And I learned this as a teacher many years later with the students I taught at the college and all the hundreds of students I've taught in my mentorship, that every single student I have matters to me. They're my friends. They're precious to me. And nobody's just a notch in a belt. Everybody matters to me. And as they did to her. So to Miss Wise, thank you for that lesson. The next teacher is Mr. Moore, and he was my English teacher in high school. Surprise, surprise. And what I loved about him was, well, for starters, we had a lot of things in common. We were both cartoonists. He was an ex-Disney cartoonist, which was a big plus to me because that was my aspiring dream job at that point. He was also a very dry, witty, funny as hell Brit. And I love Brits. I love British comedy and I love British people. I think they're wonderful. At least the ones that don't suck, right? And he knew that I was a big fan of Monty Python humor and British comedy, so he showed up one day and I remember even he lent me his Monty Python's Big Red Book. And he handed it to me and he said, take care of this book. I want it back next week in perfect condition. This is a precious book to me, but he said, there's some essential reads in there I expect you to know by next week. I said, thank you. And he said, it's Monty Python's Big Red Book. And he handed it to me. And of course, it's blue. You know, as silly and stupid as it is, that still makes me chuckle to this day. And it was full of things like Wizzo's chocolate assortments and the Lumberjack song and all the Monty Python classics and stuff like that. The essentials, right? And I brought it back to him in mint condition the next week. But I also remember how he always drew everything when he taught, being an artist himself. And I remember him teaching that pivotal moment in The Lord of the Flies when one of the boys was giving a speech trying to salvage what shred of diplomacy was left in their group. And some child pushed a boulder off of the top of a cliff and it crushed him flat and killed him, essentially dividing them into two separate political groups, kind of the more savage kids and the more diplomatic kids. And the story continues from that point on. And I still have his sketch in my head to this day. I also remember a very distinct thing about him was every single time he'd get out of his desk, he'd always stand up and he'd stub his toe. He wouldn't say anything. And then he'd continue. And this teacher's desk was very good acoustic, so you get this loud whack through the entire class. Now you can imagine how excited and happy I was when the following year I found out I was going to get him again, 2 years in a row. And I have a feeling he might have had something to do with that because we really did get along quite a bit. And it was wonderful as always. And he was doing his thing. And around 1/3 of the year in, somebody else is sitting at his desk. And I thought it was probably just a substitute teacher. Didn't give it much thought until the teacher said, "I'm going to be your new teacher for the rest of the year." And that was a bit of a surprise. I was like, wow, what? Yeah, Mr. Moore isn't going to be teaching this class anymore. And I thought, what the hell's going on? But no other explanation beyond that. And that was the case. This new teacher, I can't even remember who, to be honest with you. I can't remember who replaced him. I can't even put a face to the teacher. But yeah, the rest of the year was a different teacher. And needless to say, the luster of that class dulled very, very quickly because Mr. Moore was a uniquely fun and interesting and entertaining teacher and a very charming guy. Now, fast forward to around that same time that I had visited Miss Wise in my old elementary school, I contacted my old high school because I guess I felt my life had come full circle at that point, and I felt the need to revisit my past. I called up the school and asked the secretary, whoever it was, who answered the phone, would there be a way to get in touch with Mr. Moore? Because I wanted to touch base with him. I'm an old student of his. And she said, "I don't know a Mr. Moore, but maybe I can pass you to somebody who's been here a little longer." And this older woman answered the phone, and she said, "Hello, who is this?" And I said, "It's Adam Duff." And she said, "Oh, Adam, hi. Haven't spoken to you in a while." And I said, "Wow, you remember me." Hopefully it's not because of my infamy, because I was a bit of a shit disturber back then. And she said to me, "I'm afraid you're not going to be able to get in touch with Mr. Moore." And I said, "Oh, really? Why not?" She said, "Because he was diagnosed with cancer back when he was teaching." And I said, "Oh, that's why he was replaced so abruptly." She goes, "Yeah." And she said, "It didn't take very long either." Okay. I see. She goes, "Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry." And I said, "That's really too bad, because I really would have wanted to speak to him again and thank him, but..." And she said, "Yeah, I'm sorry." And I said, "I understand. Well, thank you for letting me know." And that was it. So I guess I'm going to have to postpone my thank you to him until I meet my own maker, I guess. Now, I hope what this little story I've shared with you of only a few teachers in my past, because they aren't the only wonderful teachers I've had. I spoke about Patrice. I spoke about a lot of other teachers I've had. The system itself definitely has some improving to do as far as that goes. And I think that goes for a lot of schools around the world in a lot of different places. But that doesn't say anything about the teachers. And although there are some pretty crappy teachers out there, you can see by evidence of how long lasting the impact of a good teacher can be and how much of an influence a teacher can have on their students, not only as professionals, but just as people, just as an example of great character. That's definitely something that can't be taken for granted. And if there are people out there in your past who have had a wonderful influence on you, don't postpone letting them know that. Let them know. People deserve credit for being wonderful people and for the effort and care that they put into your life as well. So that's my little suggestion to you moving forward. Now let's move that into today. And I want to mention a few art teachers because I am, after all, a member of the art community, and I want this to be something that you can run off and benefit from immediately. But like I said before, this is not going to be by any stretch an exhaustive list. I just want to make sure that I don't stretch this out so long that these artists, these contributors, these teachers to the art community, that they get their just attention. And I want to start with an artist who I feel whose work isn't only incredibly helpful and whose teachings aren't incredibly helpful, some of the best teachings online, but is also crucial to the integrity of our artistic community, particularly for us illustrators. And that is Charles Bernard. His YouTube channel is Online Art Academy, and he's also got a website, onlineartacademy.com. By the way, I'll be linking everything below in the description so you can go and check it out for yourself. Charles Bernard is a product of, and by that I mean a student of and a teacher at, or at least was, at the famous Artists School. If you're new to art, if you're new to the industry, then you might not even know what the famous Artist School is. But to give you a little bit of a taste of what the famous Artist School is, it's where artists like Norman Rockwell and Bernie Fuchs came from. Yes, pioneers of the illustration industry, artists whom I teach. I teach their technique. I teach their visual storytelling. They are monumentally important artists, and Charles Bernard came from that. He's a product of that. He taught at this school. So you can only imagine the flame, the torch that Charles Bernard holds in his hand, and the flame that he's keeping alive. It is not only our honor, it's not only our great honor to have an artist of his quality and a teacher of his quality start and teach on a YouTube channel, but it's our responsibility, in my humble opinion, because there are lessons that could very easily be lost in time if it wasn't for artists like Charles Bernard to keep that flame alive. And it's my responsibility as a fellow artist and YouTuber myself and a fellow teacher to tell you, to instruct you, to go and subscribe to his channel and to listen and to follow his lessons, because it will one day be your responsibility to pass the torch as well to the next generation of artists. So a teacher like Charles Bernard and what he teaches and how he teaches it and his discipline and his quality is something that cannot be lost, or it'll leave a permanent scar on the artistic industry, in my humble opinion. So you definitely want to go and subscribe to his channel. You definitely want to go and watch his videos, and trust me, you're going to thank me for it, because his lessons are second to none. They're absolutely fantastic. He's an incredible teacher. And what he teaches on his YouTube channel is just a taste of the big picture, because he also has, on Online Art Academy, he has something like 250 hours of learning material, which I can only imagine is some of the best stuff out there. Because if it's even slightly comparable to what he teaches on his YouTube channel, it's already worth the cost and then some. So go and check that out. The next artist is an artist that isn't only an amazing teacher, an amazing artist, but he's also a personality example. He kind of sets a precedent for me, not only in terms of his artistic skill, but also in terms of his kind of humility and his philosophy as an artist. And that's Borodante. And he's not only, like, one of the things I want to praise him for, and one of the reasons I want to shine a light on him is I'm also a content creator, and he's had my back in the past. And I'm not just, this isn't an IOU. It's very easy when you're out putting yourself out there to feel like you might be one in a million. You might be a grain of sand on a very big beach. And when you have an artist like Borodante reach out and offer you assistance and pull you through, like when I got my channel hacked, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have gotten my channel back, or at least not nearly as quickly as I thought I could, because he had been through something like that. And it made me realize, or at least it reinforced the fact that I'm a member of a very intimate community. Us artists it's not like fashion where there's millions and millions of us out there, or engineering where there's millions and millions of us. It's a very tight-knit community. And what goes around comes around. And when it comes to somebody like Borodante, he puts out regular content, high quality content all the time, but he's also keeping an eye out for the rest of his community. And an artist like that is kind of keeps the fabric of our community together. But here's another reason why I love his work, and I've mentioned it before in the past. And please, when I'm saying this, I want to make sure that I'm not coming across as doing some kind of a PR stunt, like I'm just trying to butter up other artists for my own benefit. I really legitimately feel I want to come across as being sincere and authentic to you. So just I want to put that out there. But I have one of the things that I, as an artist and a YouTuber, have struggled with in the past is the desire to put out only my best all the time. because I have an ego, because I'm self-conscious about how my art is perceived, as everybody else is. And he reminds me, because he's a very well-known, very successful YouTube artist who puts himself out there as well. And whenever I question, I can paint a drawing 5 or 6 times in a row and fear putting out something that's not good enough. And then I watch one of his videos, and I watch a video where he's decided to redo the same painting 7 times in a row, like his Black Widow painting. And I respect him for it, and I respect his professionalism, and I respect his integrity, and I respect his humility as an artist. And it sets an example for me, and it gives me the courage to be able to say, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to start this painting over again. And that's thanks to Borodante to give me that example. And I've credited him for it in the past, and I credit him for that today. As an artist, you have to be able to show your vulnerability on your sleeve. Zdzisław Beksiński, another Polish artist, his old diary videos showed that as well. It reminds me that I'm allowed to not be perfect, and I'm allowed that artwork is trial and error. It's bringing order to chaos. And Borodante is a very good example of that. Here's another thing I love about him. He's technical. He's a heavily technical artist. So working in Photoshop, working with layers, how to optimize Photoshop, iPad apps. He's developed a bloody iPad app, bug fixes. If I ever run into any issues with anything technical, he's usually the first guy I run to, or at least one of the first guys I run to. So link in the description. Again, an incredible artist, an incredible contributor to the community, Borodante. It's now called BoroCG, ever since he got his account hacked himself. I'll link it in the description below. The next artist on my list, Anthony Jones. A very different teaching style. Very different teaching style. But let me tell you something. It's very easy to take what Anthony Jones teaches for granted because he does it so casually. He's a very casual teacher. And he's very, very vocal in the sense that he talks a lot about his thought process. To me as an artist, the way my brain works, and I've even mentioned this when we did our podcast together, to me, it pulls me into an artistic headspace listening to him talk, because the artistic thought process, as I'm sure you can relate to me, I'm sure you can relate to this as if you're a fellow artist. You go off on tangents. It's creating synapses. It's creating bridging connections between one thought and another. And being in his vibe, being in his groove when I'm listening to him talk, just as I'm painting and I'm doing my own thing, for some reason pulls me into a far more productive headspace. It's also watching the way he paints as well. But here's the thing. When you watch Anthony Jones's videos, if you go to his Gumroad, he's got countless Gumroads. Just go and check them out. They're very inexpensive and they're incredibly valuable. His philosophy on design, the way he has his online art mentorship called Robotpencil. Pay attention to what he's saying when he's teaching stuff. It's very easily to overlook it because it's getting lost in this dialogue, this constant dialogue, but pay close attention to what he's teaching. Because I swear to you, I can't even count how many times I've been lost in a painting. I've been kind of in that, when you're kind of in that, not artist block, it could be artist block, but it's kind of like this endless loop of I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I feel like I can't quite nail down my process. I'm feeling a little bit derailed from my work. That I will watch an Anthony Jones video, something that has design philosophy. It's something that simplifies the artistic process. A really good example of one is ignoring lighting to focus on design, or any of his videos that have to do with design principles, or how to nail down an idea in the first 3 to 5 minutes of a painting. I can't stress enough how many times that has taken me from completely being lost and derailed to getting into some of my best artistic flows. And it's funny because he said it once in one of his own videos. Somebody had asked him, I can't remember when and where, but somebody had asked him the question, what is one of the qualities? What are some of the common qualities of students that do the best in your class? And he answered in a very honest but very dry way. It's the ones that actually listen to me. Right? You can listen, you can watch as many videos as you want, but are you actually applying and listening and trying what he's saying? And that's testament to exactly what I'm saying right here. I had to laugh because it's true. You can very easily overlook it in the dialogue, but don't. Pay close attention to what he's saying, because what he teaches and how he teaches it and his skill level at what he does cannot be taken for granted. It's huge. And trust me, if you pay attention to these videos, if you pay attention to these lessons, you're going to notice yourself getting into artistic grooves and producing artwork you didn't even think was possible. He's a fantastic teacher for that. And he teaches with an artist's mind, with an artist's vocabulary, which I really, really value. So link in the description. Go check it out for yourself. The second to last is Bobby Chiu. One of the things that I can't stress enough about Bobby Chiu is that he's an incredibly skilled artist and probably one of the most skilled teachers out there, because you might not know this. He taught at the Sheridan School in Oakville, Ontario, which now I believe is part of Toronto. Back in the time when I applied there and was accepted, I might add, he might have been teaching there. I'm not sure. And Sheridan College was and probably still is regarded as the top animation school in Canada, which is no small feat. Canada has a lot of great schools: Vancouver, Toronto, Winnipeg, you name it. Montreal, of course, all big cities in art. He taught at Sheridan. And of course, I became a daddy, so I stayed in Montreal and I studied at Concordia University instead. But he's a product of that. So he's an incredibly... He's a very high tier artist himself, right then and there. But I also watched his career over the years, and I remember when I first discovered Bobby Chiu, very early on, he was doing Sketchaholic. He was doing some stuff with Sketchaholic at the time, and he had his Subway sketching group, and he was starting to do his Chiu streams as well. And he always presented himself, I always regarded him as being somebody who never ever wasted an opportunity. Every single time he got the slightest scratch of momentum, he used that momentum. He never wasted an opportunity. He never said thanks and put it in his drawer and walked away. No, he used it as a building block to the next thing. And this to me is, but he did it in a way that wasn't businessy. He didn't come across to me as being some like shrewd businessman who knows how to to take advantage of opportunity. He's just a person who never took opportunity for granted, and he built on it. And he was a community-oriented individual. He was a leader. Well, I'll say it like it is. He's a leader. So when he got some momentum with his Chiu stream and with his Sketchaholic and his Subway sketching, that got him recognized. He started to make a name for himself. He started to become a recognized name. And that's probably what helped him to get attention with Tim Burton and got him that big gig with the Alice in Wonderland movie. And when he got the Alice in Wonderland movie, that got him much more attention in the artistic community. So he started to reach out to other artists, and he started to do these collaborations, and he started to do podcasts and interviews with different artists. And once he started to create enough connection with different artists in the community, he decided to further his education, further his teachings at least. And he started to build schoolism with a couple of teachers and a couple more teachers. And he reached out to specific artists with specific, unique strengths and talents in either storyboarding or portraiture or gesture drawing or landscape art or lighting or color. Any artist that kind of had a certain sparkle in a certain facet of their artwork, to build this, what's now the biggest online learning resource there is, with a continuous focus throughout the entire development of this school, of making it more and more and more accessible to everybody. Essentially doing what I wished existed growing up, which was making a very diverse and extremely professional resource for online learning, which is Schoolism, which now is a household name. If you've been in the community for long enough, then everybody knows who Schoolism is. And I had a chance to attend 2 of his Schoolism workshops because they incidentally taught them at the school that I taught at, which was great. So I got a chance to meet Carla Ortiz and Steven Silver and Bobby Chiu himself and Nathan Fowkes and all of these wonderful artists, which are, in my humble opinion, if you ever get a chance to go to a Schoolism workshop, if they're ever in your city or nearby, guaranteed, and this is not empty promotion, they are the most inspiring and most educational experiences I've ever had artistically. Incredibly valuable, incredibly inspiring events that I really highly recommend you go and check out. Really worth it. You can apply as much creativity to your career, being an artist, as you can to the artistic process itself, and he's testament to that. So link in the description below. Go and check it out. I'll leave a link for Schoolism as well. And I've taken five or six classes at Schoolism myself, and they were all fantastic. So I can definitely vouch for those as well. The last artist on my list is a friend of mine, somebody who I had reached out, thankfully had reached out 2 years ago, but has also become to me one of the most technical, no bullshit teachers out there, especially when it comes to environment art, but in art in general. And that's my friend Tyler Edlin, who also has his own mentorship. All of these artists that I mentioned, by the way, all teach either on their YouTube channel or they have their own unique teaching resources online. Now, the reason I reached out, I'm going to give you a little backstory. The reason I originally reached out to Tyler was because I loved the way he spoke. His dialogue, his very candid opening up the vault of his mind, very much like Anthony Jones, very much like Darken, Mike Lim, who I've mentioned in the past as well. He had this very open dialogue about his artistic process. And there's something about listening to artists just shoot the shit, just talk their way through their artistic process, puts me in a headspace. And his videos did that. But he has the unique ability of being highly technical about that at the same time. He gets you straight to what matters. Edges, perspective, lighting, color, atmosphere, camera angles, composition. Every time he posts a video, I learn something. His depth of knowledge in what it is that he teaches is testament to what it is that he produces. It's amazing how much this guy knows. I'm a lot older than this guy. I've learned a lot of shit in my years. I know a lot of stuff. Adam knows a lot of stuff, but when I watch his videos, man, Tyler knows a lot more than I do. Maybe I'm not giving myself enough credit there, but he just has this amazing ability to just get you straight to the goods and expose you to artistic principles you never even put into consideration. And it also makes sense of other things, because when I watch him do these paintovers, these technical paintovers of people's artwork and stuff like that, I'm watching what he's doing. I'm going, how did he do that? That color he picked. How did he even think of doing something like that? My God, it worked. And I rely on him on a personal level too. Sometimes I get stuck in my own art and I send it to him and I say, what the hell am I doing wrong? And he'll just do this one thing and I go, wow, that's it. You solved it. Every single student that has ever graduated from my mentorship and has followed up with his mentorship pull off environment art I didn't even think they'd be capable of doing. And that's testament to his ability to teach. So he's not only a great YouTuber and produces this amazing high quality content on his channel, but he's a damn good teacher too, because the proof is in the pudding. He gets people to produce the goods amazingly. And that to me is so hugely valuable, because your ability to put your money where your mouth is, like he does, and do so in a high quality way, the way he does, is incredibly valuable, and he's only going to get better in time, which to me is amazing. That puts a smile on my face, because that means we have so much more to look forward to moving forward. Our artistic community is growing in a very, very positive way. Link in the description below. So with that said, Hopefully I've given you an incentive to show some appreciation, to reach out to some of the teachers who might have helped to forge you into the wonderful person and artist that you are today, and to remind you that you might not have the opportunity to thank them indefinitely. That's not something you want to take for granted, as I sadly discovered in my own life. And to all of the artists that I've mentioned today, and like I said, this is not an exhaustive list by any stretch of the imagination. I just wanted to make sure not to make it so long that you tapped out before you got a chance to hear me out. But all of the information's in the description below. I put my own word and my reputation as a YouTuber, as a teacher myself. I put my own reputation behind these people because I have so much faith in the wonderful, amazing content that they produce. Go and check out their channels, subscribe to their channels, check out their schools. You have my personal guarantee that you're going to walk away better and happier and more inspired than you were before. And to all of you, I love you all with all my heart, and happy painting. Take care.
Thank you.